Chapter 83. Gu Mingming nodded her head hurriedly, her big watery eyes filled with anticipation. To a furry lover like Gu Mingming, this big tail was too tempting. If you accept me, this tail, and my entire body will belong to you. Leah inched forward, half leaning his body to cater to Gu Mingming's height. His pair of slender hands had already retracted his sharp fingertips, leaving only his white and slender fingertips, gently caressing Gu Mingming's little face with a tactile sensation. His tone was filled with endless ambiguity and extreme temptation. But Gu Mingming was so engrossed in the big tail that she could not pull herself away, but she still had her rationality, even though it was just a strand. Whoosh! Leah pulled away slightly, and the big tail in Gu Mingming's arms slipped out of her hands. Gu Mingming instinctively reached out to grab it again, but she only grabbed air. As for Leah, he transformed into a snow-white fox, looking at Gu Mingming with a holy and arrogant posture. He lifted one of his front paws to his lips, and stuck out his pink tongue, licking his paw nonchalantly. Gu Mingming's HP was already empty. Her last bit of rationality completely broke, and she pounced over to hug Lee's neck, burying her entire body in Lee's pure white fur in satisfaction. A faint grassy fragrance entered her nose, mixed with Lee's unique scent. That was a hidden wildness, barely visible and only faintly discernible, that was the most fascinating. Leah smiled lightly in his heart. It was really rare to see a female that liked a male body so much. If he had known this earlier, why did he use the fox seductive fragrance on her yesterday? Wouldn't it be settled if he just revealed his true form? Leah bit Gu Mingming's collar lightly, flung her onto his back, then moaned softly to Elvis, before sprinting away like a ray of light. Elvis shook his head helplessly, then transformed into a wolf and followed closely behind. The males under the wooden pagoda could only watch as the black and white shadows disappeared before their eyes, and none of them had the right to chase after them. Just now, Leah let Gu Mingming get on his back, right? Male A said. Yeah, I didn't see wrongly this time. Leah really carried Gu Mingming on his back. The male B replied. In that case. Male A suddenly recalled the day when Gu Mingming first came to St. Nazaire. Elvis also threw her on his back and ran away. At that time they thought they had seen wrongly. But now that she thought about it, St. Nazaire's strongest fighting power and wisest witch doctor seemed to be willing to submit to Gu Mingming, offering her their lifelong loyalty. Yes, we didn't see wrongly that day. Elvis carried Gu Mingming on his back then. Male B and Male A had the same idea. The two injured males gave each other a fist bump and smiled against the sunlight. Looks like if we want to mate with Gu Mingming, we have to work harder to improve our abilities. Otherwise, it would be impossible to get Elvis and Lee's approval. Makes sense, Male A agreed. But none of them noticed that behind the crowd, there was a pair of vicious eyes staring hatefully at the direction where Gu Mingming, Leah and Elvis disappeared. A pair of withered and wrinkled hands ruthlessly pinched the arm of the male beside her, but the male could not care less about his bleeding arm, only hugging her shoulders lightly and coaxing, "All right Nina, don't be angry." Chapter 84. Leah and Elvis returned to Elvis's cave one after another. Leah stopped at the entrance of Elvis's cave and transformed into a human but kept his tail and ears in his beast form. He did not seem to mind that others might think he was a lowly half-orc now. He just laid on his side seductively and used his large tail to encircle Gu Mingming in his arms. While using his large tail to tease Gu Mingming, who was playing happily, he looked at her with a doting expression and asked, "Can I go in?" Gu Mingming could not bear to let go of this large tail at all. Moreover, it was not like Leah had never entered Elvis's cave before. What reason did she have to reject him? So she nodded hurriedly and said, "Yes, yes, of course you can." Leah nodded his head in satisfaction and exchanged glances with Elvis, saying, "Go ahead and hunt, leave this to me." Elvis did not transform back into his human form as he was afraid that he would reveal his jealousy. Gu Mingming liked Lee's original form so much, but she did not even look at him, who had also transformed into a wolf. Looking at Gu Mingming nestling in Lee's arms in satisfaction, Elvis suppressed the sourness in his heart and nodded before turning to run away. He used his speed to challenge his body's limits to numb the irritation in his heart. He kept telling himself that he and Leah were both Gu Mingming's partners and it was fine as long as she was happy. After Elvis left, Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin lightly and turned her little face towards him. Looking at her hugging his tail innocently and not letting go, Leah felt a strange feeling in his heart once again. It was as if a warm current was spreading from his left chest to the rest of his body. That feeling was very warm, very comfortable, and made one yearn for it. Tell me, what should Elvis's title be when it corresponds to Daddy Leah? Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and answered without thinking, "Old godmother." Leah raised his eyebrows. He could not differentiate between daddy and godmother, and would not know that old godmother was a type of chili sauce. He could only compare from the literal meaning and pronunciation before nodding his head in approval, saying, "Yeah, I still like the title, Daddy Leah." "Come on, say it again." Gu Mingming blushed. When she wanted to hug his thighs, she just blurted it out. But now that there were only the two of them, this demon was still looking at her ambiguously and asking her to call him daddy. It was so damn embarrassing. "You're not calling me?" Leah tilted his beautiful eyes and said as if he was hurt, "You called me so intimately before you got me. Now that I'm yours, you're not even willing to say a nickname? Ming, you are so heartless." "What?" Gu Mingming shuddered and said in shock, "Don't spout nonsense, I didn't pounce on you, how did you become mine?" "Oh." Leah did not seem surprised by Gu Mingming's reaction. He just ruminated over the word pounce, before asking with a sincere expression, "You just pounced from Elvis's arms to me in front of everyone in the tribe. You even hugged me, touched and played with me for a long time. Now, are you going to turn against me and refuse to admit it?" Gu Mingming shook her head and waved her hands. It was a common feeling of being unable to explain herself. How the hell was she going to explain that this Piu was not the Piu? It was all her fault for being blinded by lust. She couldn't control her urges when she saw a body of flawless white fur. But what she had pounced on was a fox, the kind of high-class pet. Aside from the topic, don't rush, Elvis's status has not been decided yet. It's impossible for Leah to be promoted. Chapter 85. In the future you're not allowed to say that I'm not yours. Do you understand? Leah used one hand to hold onto Gu Mingming's hand that was waving like a windshield wiper and pulled it into his arms. Gu Mingming drowned in Lee's fluffy big tail while Leah caressed Gu Mingming's little head from time to time. He said in a slightly reproachful tone, "I don't want to be abandoned." Gu Mingming hugged onto Lee's big tail without letting go and said tearlessly, "Daddy Leah, I didn't abandon you, but I really can't mate with you." "You didn't abandon me but you can't mate with me. Do you still want to pair me up with Elvis?" Leah smiled evilly. He placed his elbows on the ground and supported his chin with his palm. He looked at Gu Mingming coquettishly and said, "If Gu Mingming likes it, I can cooperate once in a while. But if it's for a long time, even if I agree, Elvis won't agree." Gu Mingming felt her nose bleeding. Her already empty blood tank was overdrawn. "Leah, does your mother know how dirty you are?" At first glance, Gu Mingming still felt that Leah was as pure and holy as a flower on a high mountain, not to be messed with. His image had crumbled too quickly. What the heck, in just one night, Leah had walked further and further down the path of corruption, as though he was never going to return. Leah held onto Gu Mingming's hand gently. The gentleness in his eyes could almost be squeezed out. He looked at Gu Mingming affectionately and said, "Gu Mingming, promise me, no matter what, don't abandon me, all right?" Unknowingly, Gu Mingming's heart was suddenly touched violently. Lee's gaze was clearly smiling and gentle, but Gu Mingming felt as if she could see an unknown scar in that pair of eyes. Leah, what had he experienced? Gu Mingming kept her joking thoughts and frowned slightly. She looked back at Leah and deliberated for a long time before shaking her head and saying, "I can't promise something I can't do. You're very good but I can't mate with you." What? Hearing Gu Mingming's rejection, Lee's heart tightened. The question that he blurted out caught him off guard. Why would he care about the reason? According to his original personality, no matter what her reason was, he would always have a way to make her comply with his wishes. But why did he care about why now? Gu Mingming lowered her head, not daring to look into Lee's eyes. Rejecting someone was a stressful matter, especially rejecting Leah, a Prince Charming whom Gu Mingming could not match up to no matter how she looked at it. The stress was even greater. And when the Prince Charming was still looking at you with an infatuated expression, the pressure was so great that it felt like the atmosphere was about to explode. Marriage? Oh no, mating is an important matter that affects the entire generation. It can't be done casually or carelessly. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. He liked the way she looked at him. When he could clearly see himself in her clear eyes, he felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. And her avoidance made his heart uneasy. But this time, Leah felt that he was wrong. Why was it that when he saw the clear guilt and apology in her eyes, his heart felt as if it was being slowly pierced by a sharp claw? That pain lasted for a long time and he could clearly feel every minute and inch of it. "I'm willing to pledge my lifelong loyalty to you, not carelessly or casually." Leah retracted his arm and pulled Gu Mingming into his embrace, avoiding her serious gaze. Their faces were pressed against each other and Li's lips moved softly beside Gu Mingming's ear. Mingming, believe me, I'm serious. Aside from the topic, on the first day of the PK I'll add more updates. My little babies, please leave a comment. Whether Gu Mingming would have meat to eat in the future depended on everyone. Chapter 86. But Gu Mingming felt a tightness in her throat. She was really not good at rejecting, but no matter how seductive or immortal Leah was, Gu Mingming really could not entrust her entire life to him so carelessly. We've only known each other for 3 days. You still have a lifetime to slowly familiarize yourself with me. Leah supported the back of Gu Mingming's head with one hand, while the other wrapped around her waist tightly. He was afraid that he would hurt her if he used more strength, but he was afraid that she would break free and never come back if he used less strength. Gu Mingming tried to push Leah away but to no avail. Compared to males, even if she had 2 years of bodybuilding training, she was still considered a weak girl without the strength to truss a chicken. Leah, I'm sorry. Gu Mingming gave up struggling and allowed Leah to hug her like that. She knew that males in the beast world had extremely good hearing, so with the distance between them, even if her voice was soft, Leah would definitely be able to hear it clearly. A lifetime is too heavy a promise. I can't give my entire life to someone I've only known for 3 days. Lee's back stiffened. He thought that after what happened in the past, his heart would no longer hurt, but he was wrong. But you accepted Elvis? Leah looked down, a tinge of dejection in his eyes. Gu Mingming's brain was a little slow. She seemed to know something incredible but could not explain exactly what it was. Leah looked at Gu Mingming's reaction and suddenly asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, "Don't tell me, you don't intend to mate with Elvis too? What a joke. Elvis is my godmother." Gu Mingming jumped up out of reflex, but after saying that she suddenly remembered, damn, Elvis helped her change her sanitary pad before, and he even changed his clothes from head to toe. F***ck. What happened to the promised sisters, godmother and daughter? Gu Mingming looked up at the sky and sighed, I've been tricked by a wild wolf. Leah laughed and squinted his eyes. His gaze drifted to the distance, looking calm but with a hint of murderous intent. So, the first partner in your heart is Barit? How is that possible? Gu Mingming shook her head heartlessly, I only see Barit as a friend. The kind of friend who can care, hug and kiss? Leah raised his eyebrows and asked. Gu Mingming facepalmed. Damn it, could this joke ever get over with? Seeing that Gu Mingming did not reply, Leah curled his large tail and scooped Gu Mingming into his arms. Her tiny waist was pressed tightly against Lee's firm abs and both her feet were off the ground. Other than Leah, she did not have any other support points. So she could only wrap her arms around Lee's neck to maintain her balance, but her upper body instinctively moved backwards, trying to widen the distance between them. But why would Leah let her have her way? One of his hands had already grabbed the back of her head and fixed her in front of him at a distance of about a fist. With a smile that was not a smile, he said, Mingming, if you feel that 3 days is too short and is not enough for you to believe my sincerity, then before you feel that it is long enough, let me be your friend. The kind of friend that you can care, hug, kiss. As Leah spoke, he slowly inched forward. His target was naturally Gu Mingming's tender and delicious lips. Gu Mingming crossed her arms in front of her chest and blocked Lee's kiss. She laughed dryly, ha, ha ha, it's good to be friends. Let's start from being friends. Friends can kiss. Leah said unhappily. There are many types of friends too. Not every friend can be kissed. Gu Mingming said seriously. No. Leah raised his head and said in a slightly commanding tone with a sense of pride, I want to be your only friend. Other than me you cannot be polite to any other friend or else. I will kill him. Leah raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming. Aside from the topic, come, my little babies. Today's prize-winning question and answer session. Old godmother's real name is ________. The first prize for answering correctly is XXB30, the second prize is 20, the third prize is 10. The prize for 40 minus 10 is 5. The prize for 11 minus 20 is 2. It's just a small token for fun, babies, don't despise it. She did not have the habit of going around looking for someone's father, so why would she not agree? Good. Leah was extremely satisfied. Although he did not gain Gu Mingming's approval to become her partner, it was already a good progress to be able to live together with her. Leah did not want to force Gu Mingming too much in case he scared her. So he rubbed her furry little head and said, Go and play with Sandy, I think Elvis should be back soon. Daddy Leah will roast the rabbit for you later. Gu Mingming really wanted to tell Leah that calling himself Daddy Leah was very Chinibyu, but when the words reached the tip of her tongue, she chose to swallow them back into her stomach. She nodded obediently and said, "All right." Out of topic, oh yes. Just to clarify, all activities are limited to little friends who leave messages in the message area of Xiaoxiang Academy. Because Xiaoxiang's authors don't have a backer on QQ reading, we can't set up any rewards. Dear readers, if you are willing to have fun with Jeaner, please download the Xiaoxiang Academy app. Also, leave a message. Collect. Chapter 88. Leah gently let go of Gu Mingming and placed her on the ground steadily. Then he slowly stretched out his large tail and followed Gu Mingming's rhythm as she ran towards Sandy until his tail could no longer touch her. Leah retracted his tail and looked at Gu Mingming's radiant smile with a doting expression. He pondered over what Gu Mingming had said just now. The world was so beautiful. Yeah, it was indeed beautiful. This was unprecedented. Leah turned around to start a fire. Although he was fearful of the fire demon, it was a necessity for his Gu Mingming to eat. So what if he had to use his bones as firewood? On the other side, Gu Mingming pounced towards Sandy happily. She took the things from her hands and asked, "Why did you bring so many things over?" Sandy distributed the things to Gu Mingming and said, "You left just like that just now and forgot to take the yellow gravy that everyone gave you." Gu Mingming slapped her forehead in realization. Then she rubbed her hands together with a money grubber face and said, "Ayaya, that's great Sandy, you're really my lucky star. Elvis just happened to go hunting. Let's roast meat with honey later." Sandy remembered that Gu Mingming mentioned before that their original tribe called the yellow gravy honey. At the thought of roast meat, Sandy swallowed her saliva instinctively. But looking at Leah, who was starting a fire behind Gu Mingming, Sandy twisted her fingers and said with some grievance, "Today is the first time Elvis and Leah are your partners. This day is too precious to them." Sandy looked at the yellow gravy in Gu Mingming's hands. She imagined the combination of the sweet yellow gravy and the delicious roast meat and what kind of amazing taste would be produced. That would definitely be an unprecedented delicacy. Wiping away the saliva that flowed down from the corner of her mouth, Sandy endured the huge torment in her heart and said, "I'll come and eat with you next time." Before she finished her sentence, Sandy had already turned around to leave. But her pair of meaty feet were rooted to the ground and could not move an inch. Gu Mingming looked at Sandy's struggling back view and the meaty hands that were purposely left behind for her to hold. She burst out laughing. She walked to the front of Sandy and stuffed the yellow gravy into her arms. "Leah, Elvis and I don't have that kind of relationship. If you want to know the details, why don't you stay and eat with us? Let's talk while we eat?" Sandy's heart sank into two huge whirlpools. The whirlpool on the left was why Gu Mingming said that Leah and Elvis did not have the kind of relationship she had imagined. The whirlpool on the right was, when would the roasted meat be cooked? Which one should I ask first? Sandy was extremely conflicted. Gu Mingming looked at Sandy's conflicted expression and nudged her with her shoulder. "Stop daydreaming and come over to help." Okay. Sandy was a little excited. "Help?" Gu Mingming asked her for help. Ever since she was young, she had only been waiting to eat, drink, and be taken care of. When she was young, it was her father, and when she grew up, it was her partner. They had always told her, "Be good and wait, it will be ready soon." This was the first time someone had asked her for help. Sandy was so agitated that she almost cried, but Gu Mingming had no idea what kind of feeling she had brought to Sandy's heart. Wasn't it normal for best friends to help each other out? Sandy blindly followed behind Gu Mingming, her little hands clutching the sides of her dress nervously. Her eyes shone with anticipation and nervousness. What would Gu Mingming ask her to do? She seemed to not know how to do anything. Aside from the topic, Jeaner brought Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah, asking for love in all sorts of ways. Please don't be a novelist, you must catch up with the updates. Chapter 89. Gu Mingming skipped to Lee's side with Sandy. At this moment, Leah had just started a small fire by mimicking how Elvis had drilled wood to start a fire on the punishment platform. Leah frowned slightly. Animals had a more sensitive sense of smell than humans and orcs had a better sense of smell than animals. The smoke had obviously made Leah choke. Gu Mingming had always been a person who took pity on beauties. Her heart ached when she saw Leah in pain. She hurriedly took over the wooden stick from Lee's hands and said, "It's all right, Daddy Leah, go and rest. Leave this to me and Sandy." Lee's lips curled up slightly. He liked how Gu Mingming was concerned about him. With a slight curl of his big tail, he circled Gu Mingming and placed her behind him. using his body to block the smoke for her. He looked at her gently from the corner of his eye and said, "My heart will ache if I choke you." Thump, thump. Daddy Leah was really good at flirting. Gu Mingming felt her bones soften and she almost drowned in Lee's faint smile that could turn all living things upside down. "No way. No way." Gu Mingming turned to look at Sandy, who was sitting obediently at the side. "Are those your males squatting and smelling the smoke over there?" Sandy looked in the direction that Gu Mingming was pointing at. She then turned around and nodded at Gu Mingming. "Yeah, it's Bode and the rest. Why don't they come over?" Gu Mingming was puzzled. Sandy seemed to be used to Gu Mingming's lack of common sense. She did not think much about it and just patiently explained. "This is Elvis's territory. Without his permission, other males cannot enter as they please. If not for you, even a female like me cannot enter as she pleases." Gu Mingming asked in a daze, "Has Elvis always been so unsociable and doesn't interact with others?" Sandy could not help but shake her head. "It's not that Elvis is unsociable. Every male has his own sense of territory. He can't offend any other males or else he will be seen as a provocation and be attacked." Gu Mingming blinked and rubbed her chin. "Then what if I want to look for you in the future? If I accidentally enter someone else's territory, won't I die a horrible death?" As Leah added dried leaves to the fire, he said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, you have Elvis and me, no one can hurt you." Gu Mingming's eyes sparkled like stars. She clasped her hands in front of her chest and looked at Leah with admiration. "Daddy Leah is so reliable." Leah smiled without saying a word. He was in a good mood as he added a bunch of dried leaves to the fire, almost extinguishing the small flame that had just started. "Gu Mingming, why did you call Leah Daddy? What exactly does Daddy mean?" Sandy tilted her head and asked Gu Mingming with a curious look. "Papa." Gu Mingming felt a deep sense of despair. The Papa and Mama combo was the first word she learned when she was learning to speak, but she did not know how to use literal words to explain this form of address. After thinking for a while, Gu Mingming finally squeezed out a sentence. "Daddy is the most reliable male in this world, he will save us from any danger or hardship. No matter what kind of difficulties we encounter, he will stand in front of us and protect us for the rest of our lives. Daddy is the only male in this world who will never abandon us or betray us." She said the only. Lee's heart skipped a beat. This was the first time he heard such a familiar yet foreign word from a female. Was he the only, she said? Aside from the topic, today's Q&A, Sandy has a crush on a single male in St. Nazaire. "May I ask if this male is ______?" Same rules, the first baby who answers correctly will get XXB 30, the second will get 20, the third will get 10. 11 to 25. 21 to 33. Chapter 90. "Oh, so Daddy is what you two partners call each other? Hee, then I will also call Bode, Daddy Bode in the future." Sandy thought that Daddy was like honey and was just a dialect. But before she could finish her sentence, she felt a chill down her spine. She looked towards the source of the chill and saw Leah smiling at her with a burning wooden stick in one hand. That smile was so cold that it sent shivers down one's spine. Crack. The wooden stick in Lee's hand was crushed into pieces and some sparks splashed onto Lee's body. However, he did not care and just maintained that cold smile. In a clear voice, he said, "This title belongs to me." Oh. Sandy shrank her neck and nodded pitifully. Leah was so scary when he had a partner. He even threatened females. He was not like this in the past. Sobs. She wanted to cry but did not dare to. She felt so wronged. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little awkward, Gu Mingming laughed dryly. She held Sandy's little hand in her arms and said, "Daddy does not mean partner. It is a kind of blood relationship, a kind of familial love. It is a kind of connection that cannot be severed no matter what. It is very simple but also very complicated. I will explain it to you when I have the chance in the future. Now let's talk about roasted meat. Alright?" "Yeah." Sandy nodded her head as if she understood but did not probe further. She only hoped that the chapter on Daddy would be over as soon as possible. Lee's face darkened even more and he looked especially angry. Because, Gu Mingming just said that Daddy did not mean partner? You do not intend to mate with Leah? Sandy grasped the main point with a face full of shock. She completely ignored the fact that Lee's veins were popping out from her roar. Gu Mingming shook her head honestly and said, "At my place, we do not mate as soon as we reach adulthood. We will start off as friends and after we understand each other to a certain extent, we will become lovers when we feel that it is right. After a few years of dating, we will get used to each other and when everything is right, We will then seek the approval of both families and become partners under the blessings of all our friends and family. Sandy was confused. Friends? Wasn't it like the relationship between her and Gu Mingming? Will we become lovers in the future? Sandy asked in confusion. Gu Mingming burst out in laughter. My sexual orientation is normal, I only like pretty boys. You don't like me anymore? Sandy's eyes were misty, and it looked like she was about to burst into tears. It wasn't easy for her to make a friend if Gu Mingming didn't like her. Would she become all alone again? Although her partners treated her very well and loved her very much, she always felt that there were some things that she couldn't tell them. But Gu Mingming was different. Although they had only known each other for a short 2 days, Gu Mingming gave her a very warm and special feeling. She really liked Gu Mingming. Haha, Gu Mingming laughed heartily and hugged Sandy tightly. She rubbed her furry little ears and said, "The like I mentioned is referring to the choice of partners. As a good friend and bestie, I like it a lot." Really? Sandy asked doubtfully. Her big innocent and clear eyes fluttered, making Gu Mingming's heart soften. Of course it's true. You are kind and pure, gentle and cute, kind and not pretentious, friendly and caring. What reason do I have not to like you? Gu Mingming held Sandy's chubby little face in her hands and kissed her. Sandy blushed and giggled. I like you the most too. Sandy blushed and giggled. I like you the most too. Aside from the topic, the competition is tomorrow and I don't know what the outcome will be either. I'm so nervous, so nervous. Babies, let's give it a try. Bookmark and leave a message if you have any flowers, give them to me. Chapter 91. In your world, all males and females start off as friends, then become lovers before finally becoming partners? Sandy blinked her big innocent eyes and tilted her head to ask. Gu Mingming played with Li's big tail while nodding her head and answering, not necessarily. We have a phrase called love at first sight. It's two people who can recognize each other in the bustling crowd, as if they are the other half of you that you have been searching for years. Then, the heavenly thunder and the earthly fire went out of control, and they got married just like that. Oh, marriage means mating. Sandy nodded her head as if she understood, then continued asking, then why didn't you fall in love with Leah at first sight? Cough cough. Gu Mingming almost choked to death on her own saliva. Sneaking a peek at Leah, he was indeed smiling, but that smile looked dangerous no matter how she looked at it, as if he would rush up and strangle Sandy anytime. Gu Mingming roared in her heart, I say Sandy, you have to be more careful. Why did you have to rub it in? But even though she was cursing in her heart, Gu Mingming still had to come out to smooth things over. So she shrugged her shoulders and avoided Li's gaze guiltily. It was clearly written in his eyes, please start your performance, I am waiting to hear your explanation. Gu Mingming opened her mouth to say something, but almost bit her own tongue. But Sandy did not let it go and added another stab, don't you like pretty older brothers? Leah is so pretty. Gu Mingming facepalmed. She decided to give Sandy the Best Bad Friend award. But Leah smiled and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear like a spring breeze, in the entire beast world I am afraid there is no one more good-looking than me, so, you like me, how about that? Haha. Gu Mingming thought to herself, was Daddy Leah selling himself? Wasn't he afraid that she would really pounce on him after being obsessed with him? Oh, he definitely did not know that there was a phrase in the modern world called fast food love, the kind that leaves after eating without taking responsibility. Just as Gu Mingming was fretting over how to reply, she saw a black wolf with something in its mouth dashing towards her from afar. Strangely enough, Gu Mingming did not feel afraid at all when such a ferocious beast pounced on her. Instead, she felt a sense of familiarity and intimacy. She jumped down from Li's tail, waved at the black wolf and shouted, Leader. Elvis's heart warmed. This was the first time he understood the meaning of family. In that dark, cold cave, there is a little girl waiting for you to come back. That was why he unconsciously sped up when he was hunting just now, as if something was pulling him back quickly. So, this was what it meant to be anxious to return home. It was only because she was waiting for him, and he couldn't wait to see her wave at him. As Elvis decelerated, he transformed into human form to prevent himself from crashing into her. Elvis grasped the perfect distance. After he completed his transformation and deceleration, he stood steadily in front of Gu Mingming, with a distance of half a step between them. Holding a bunch of rabbits in his hand, Elvis could not wait to wrap his other hand around Gu Mingming's shoulder and bring her into his arms. Gu Mingming, who was clearly a small ball, so soft that it seemed as if she would break with just a little force, had such an indescribable and wonderful power that made him yearn and go crazy. And Gu Mingming, who was in his arms, felt even crazier. Leader, where's your beast skin dress? Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, Sandy, it's the group interview time now. May I know, how do you feel about receiving the honor of being the best worst friend? Sandy, firstly, I want to thank my papa and mama. Without them, I would not have been born. Secondly, I want to thank CCTV, Beast World TV and all the other TV channels. Thank you for everyone's recognition and love for me. Of course, the person I want to thank the most is my best friend, Gu Mingming. If it wasn't for your help, I would never have received this award. Half of this honor is mine and the other half is yours. Chapter 92. Bobo. Leader, your clothes. Gu Mingming said each word with a trembling voice. Her entire body froze and she did not dare to move an inch. Yes, she was a girl who was slightly infatuated with girls, but that was only in the area of moving her mouth. When it came to real combat, she had the heart but not the guts to do it. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming, not willing to let go. He enjoyed the endless warmth that she gave him, and the blissful feeling that spread throughout his body made him sink in and infatuated with her. Where are your clothes? Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva. Damn, every single hair on her body was reminding her that she was being hugged by a naked male. Any careless touch would cause goosebumps all over her body to fall off. I threw it on the way. Elvis would never say that his beast skin dress was torn off by a tree branch because he was in a hurry to see her. He was too stingy to turn back to pick it up for 2 seconds, so he transformed into his beast form and ran back. Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva and silently cursed Leader for being so rich. The fist-sized luminous pearl was crushed just like that, and the top-quality fur was thrown away just like that. Rich? What about that? Sandy is watching. Gu Mingming really wanted to push Elvis, but any random movement of hers now would very likely cause her to touch something that she should not touch. So Gu Mingming could only stiffen her body and breathe carefully, afraid that it would cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Elvis's lips curled up and a strange feeling spread in his heart. She minded other females seeing his body. Help me wear it. Elvis stretched his hand out to Leah, and Leah took down the beast skin dress hanging near the entrance of the cave and threw it to him. Elvis caught the beast skin dress steadily and hooked it with one finger to hang it in front of Gu Mingming, looking like he was going to be naked if she did not help him wear it. Gu Mingming was free and hurriedly took a small step back to widen the distance between them. But this step back, she could see it even more clearly. Gu Mingming, whose face was as red as a pig's liver, snatched the beast skin dress from Elvis's fingers and wrapped it around Elvis's waist messily. She tied a dead knot in a flurry and only heaved a sigh of relief after ensuring that it would not fall off. He awkwardly changed the topic. Boss, what did you hunt back? Rabbit. Elvis picked up a bunch of rabbits tied together with grass that he had casually thrown aside and passed it to Gu Mingming. Yeah, after squatting down he realized that Gu Mingming's beast skin dress was worn really well. Although it was so tightly wrapped around his flesh that a slight movement could break the dress, the suffocating feeling was still pretty good. Look, there's a red mark on her waist. How beautiful it is. How artistic. Oh, the feeling of pain was just right to make every cell in his body excited so deliciously. Elvis's smile grew wider. He decided that unless Gu Mingming personally took off this dress, he would continue wearing it like this. Gu Mingming's face was still burning hot. She had no time to pay attention to Elvis's strange expression and Lee's deep gaze. She just took the rabbits and frowned her delicate crescent brows, asking, Boss, did you catch all the rabbits in this nest to extinction? Yeah. Elvis replied with a single word cheerfully. He did not know what extinction meant. Gu Mingming lifted the bunch of rabbits in her hands and asked, Even the nests? Not a single one was left behind, right? Yeah. Elvis continued nodding his head cheerfully. Gu Mingming's lips twitched. She sat cross-legged on the ground and started to untie the little rabbits. She said as she untied them, You should at least leave a descendant for others, or else we won't have any rabbits to eat in the future. Aside from the topic, my babies, today is the last day of the PK, collect your comments and click them. Tomorrow when the results are out, I will inform my babies immediately through the author's words. Today's prize-winning question and answer. Gina is planning to do something. Please listen to the question. Are you a fan of Air Meng or a fan of Lai Meng? Or, are you a fan of Air Meng? Leave a comment and tell us your faction. Let's see how many people are on the same side as you. Chapter 93. All right. Elvis did not care about the reason as long as she said it, he was willing to do it. Gu Mingming untied the 4 little rabbits and looked around. She handed the rabbits to Sandy and ran to a nearby place to pull the tree vines. The tree vines did not look too thick, but it took some effort to pull them out. Gu Mingming pulled until the skin on her palms broke, but she did not manage to pull off 2 to 3. She could only hold onto the tree vines and turned back to look at Elvis pitifully. "Leader, please protect me." "All right." Elvis's eyes were filled with indulgence and love. He walked forward slowly and pulled lightly, causing the tree vines to fall onto the ground. "Is it enough?" Elvis looked at Gu Mingming, who was squatting on the ground to pick up the tree vines, and asked. "Enough, enough." Satisfied, Gu Mingming picked out a huge bunch of tree vines before skipping back to Sandy's side. She sat down cross-legged and tied the tree vines one by one, before starting to weave a simple little cage. She asked while weaving, "Leader, you only hunted rabbits? Nothing else?" Elvis's eyes lit up with smiles. He thought that the messenger of the beast deity could only eat rabbits. He had been worrying on the way back, wondering if he could catch enough rabbits to feed her for the entire winter. Hearing her question now, did it mean that the messenger of the beast deity could eat other things other than rabbits? This would greatly increase her chances of survival. To Elvis there was no better news. "Just cows, sheep, pigs and so on," Gu Mingming said while weaving the cage. Elvis thought for a while. If there was anything similar between rabbits, cows, sheep and pigs, it should be that they were all animals with 4 legs on the ground. Following this pattern, Elvis tried asking, "Cows, sheep and pigs are rarely seen. Tigers, leopards and wolves, are they okay?" Gu Mingming was so shocked that she looked up at Elvis in shock. Was it really okay to have such a heavy taste? "You still eat wolves?" Gu Mingming could not accept the truth. Elvis was a wolf himself, how could he still eat wolves? Wouldn't it feel like he was eating his own kind? Just thinking about it made her feel burdened. Elvis, however, was unconcerned. He just shrugged and said, "Becoming food is the fate of the weak." Haha. Gu Mingming was speechless. The weak were prey to the strong, survival of the fittest. There seemed to be nothing wrong with this barbaric era. Hence, Gu Mingming could only shrug her shoulders and did not reply. She quickened her pace and in no time she had finished weaving the small cage. Sandy was already looking at Gu Mingming with starry eyes full of admiration. She felt that Gu Mingming was practically glowing. Gu Mingming opened the small door of the cage and placed the little rabbits inside one by one. She then used tree vines to make a lock and finally placed the cage in a shady spot at the entrance of the cave. She turned around and said to Sandy, "Let's keep these 4 little ones as pets and play with them." Sandy tilted her head and blinked. "Why don't you raise males as pets? She can make us happy and take care of us." The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. In his heart, he cursed, "Sandy, can you not use such an innocent expression and tone to say such hardcore words? What do you mean by raising males as pets? F******. Why does it feel like a landlord raising a mistress? How could a good socialist youth do such a thing?" Thinking about this, Gu Mingming's eyes darted towards Elvis and Leah. Damn it, these 2 fellows were just like the cool version of Teacher Cat in Natsume's Friends account, and the black version of Sesomaru in Inuyasha. With this kind of physique, how could they be pets? Are you kidding me? Aside from the topic, the Kill Temple of Sesomaru in Inuyasha does not have a black version. If you want to see it, please Photoshop it yourself. Another thing, Inuyasha is an anime with a more aged feel. Many children should not have seen it before. But for the details of the Kill Temple, you can refer to the cover of this article. That furry and handsome male is our Kill Temple. It was as if Gu Mingming, who weighed 60 kilograms, was just a small cotton ball with no weight at all. Leah walked side by side with Elvis the moment he took his first step. The smile on his face was unknowingly replaced by worry. He did not say much and only said 2 words lightly, "Let's go together." Sandy was extremely anxious, but there was no way her speed could catch up to Elvis and Leah. She could only huff and puff as she ran behind them. After they left Elvis's territory, Bode carried her all the way to the stream. Elvis and Leah ran frantically towards the stream one after another. In addition to Gu Mingming's rutting fragrance, they had long attracted the attention of the people in the tribe. In addition, Sandy, the worst friend, followed closely behind. She shouted as she chased after them, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, Gu Mingming has lost a lot of blood. I don't know if she will die. I'm so worried, run faster." Yeah, the news of Gu Mingming's death spread throughout the entire Saint Nazaire in an instant. Aside from the topic, this was the last chapter of the PK period. The PK would start later. So nervous. No matter what the outcome was, Jean Eyre and Gu Mingming were extremely grateful for the companions and hard work these 3 days. "Thank you for your passion and love, it makes me feel very warm." She used her chin to point at Elvis and Leah, then pointed at Bode and the other males who had followed her all the way here. She then asked, "Everyone is watching, only the two of us are eating? Aren't you ashamed?" Sandy looked around, then nodded her head confidently. "Of course I am, why should I be ashamed?" Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. "The rabbits were caught by Elvis, we still need Lee's help to prepare them later on. In the end I'll be eating while others watch, I'll be sitting while others stand, what would happen then? No, I can't do it. If we want to eat, we'll eat together or we won't eat. What era are we living in, why is there still sexism?" Aside. Extra great news, this article has passed 1p. The great editor has informed me to write well and prepare for 2p. During the PK period, thank you little cuties for your support and crazy calls, thank you little babies Black Sleeves Fragrance, and Yu Yen for their flowers during the PK period. Also thank you QQ Bookstore, Xin Yen's Night, for his 388 reading B-Bean. Chapter 96. Of course, Sandy did not know what gender discrimination was because the beast world had always been like that. It was only right for females to have priority in all resources. But, it was also right for females in the beast world to be willful, especially for the first beauty of the tribe like Gu Mingming. She could do whatever she wanted. Not to mention a mere water shuttle, even if Gu Mingming picked up a rock from the ground and said it was a delicacy, there would be males who would stand out to chew it into pieces and praise it as delicious. Anyway, the males would be the ones to eat the worst food, so Sandy did not insist and just treated it as playing with Gu Mingming. She nodded her head and said, "All right, whatever you say. But we have to agree, after you roast the water shuttle, we will roast the fish to eat." "All right." Gu Mingming nodded her head, then looked at Bode and Sandy's other males who were following behind Sandy. They wanted to get closer but seemed to be afraid of Elvis and Leah. She rubbed her chin and smiled sneakily, "But we can't let Elvis prepare everyone's food by himself, right? Can we ask those from your family to come over and help?" Sandy turned around to look at Bode. Just as she was about to nod her head, she hesitated and peeked at Elvis and Leah from the corner of her eyes. She whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "It's not a big deal to help, but Elvis has to agree first." Gu Mingming looked back at Elvis in confusion and shrugged her shoulders in confusion, asking, "What do you mean?" Sandy wrinkled her nose at Gu Mingming, pretending to be disgusted. Then she inched closer and said in an even softer voice, "Elvis is the leader of the tribe and has the priority to hunt. Wherever he is, as long as someone snatches his prey within the range of his scent, it will be considered a provocation and he will teach that person a harsh lesson. Bode and the rest are not Elvis's match." Gu Mingming opened her mouth and nodded her head as if she understood. Then she turned around to look at Elvis and said, "Leader, can we ask Sandy's males to come over and help us prepare some food?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head lovingly. After confirming that her nose was no longer bleeding, he felt relieved and his mood turned for the better. He scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and hugged her with one arm. His eyes were filled with so much indulgence that it could melt into water. His voice was low and thick like the playing of a cello. "Here you have the final say." Gu Mingming chuckled and gave Elvis a thumbs up. "Leader, you're so reliable." Elvis seemed to be used to hearing Gu Mingming talk about irrelevant things and did not think about what she meant by atmosphere. Looking at her expression, it was definitely not something bad, so he accepted it gladly. Gu Mingming jumped down from Elvis's arms and held her head high, looking like a little villain intoxicated by success. She cleared her throat and said, "Those who want to eat together later, prepare your own ingredients." Elvis nodded. Gu Mingming's words caused a huge commotion among the males. "Gu Mingming, can we eat with you?" Amidst the cheers, all of them were asking the same question. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Of course you can, the more people there are, the more delicious the food will be." Oh, after a round of cheers, the single males scattered off to hunt. This was a chance for them to display their skills in front of Gu Mingming. She must have wanted to test everyone to see whose hunting skills were stronger, so she asked everyone to stay for a meal. After all, winter was coming soon and hunting skills were naturally the most important factor in choosing a partner. Chapter 97. At that moment, Gu Mingming still did not know what kind of weird ingredients she would face later on. Looking at everyone's energetic looks, he grinned and thought to himself, "Looks like everyone is hungry. You guys." Gu Mingming waved at Bode and the rest. "Can you go into the water and help me catch 2 fish?" Bode did not reply and just looked at Sandy as if waiting for her to say something. Sandy nodded without hesitation and said, "Of course, Bode is a very good swimmer." Bode was pleased by Sandy's praise and his gaze was filled with a, "I really don't know what to do with you," smile and love. He nodded and said, "Sit by the shore and wait for me. Don't go near the stream, understand?" Sandy pouted. She was obviously not too happy. Gu Mingming would ask her for help, but Bode and the rest still treated her like a piece of trash and only asked her to wait by the side. Good girl. Bode cupped Sandy's chubby little face with both hands and waited for her promise with anticipation in his eyes. "I know, hurry and go." Although Sandy was unwilling, she did not have the heart to resist. Used to, what a scary word. After getting Sandy's promise, Bode nodded his head in satisfaction. He gently kissed Sandy's forehead and said gently, "Wait for me." Then he untied the beast-skin skirt tied around his waist and transformed into a leopard. With a leap, a yellow shadow leaped into the water. Perhaps it was because the people in the beast world did not like to eat fish, so these fat and strong fish did not have any sense of danger. Even if a ferocious beast like Bode jumped into the water, they did not care. They swam and ate whatever they wanted as if they did not care about Bode at all. Bode raised his claws and slapped the water, splashing water up to a meter high. Before the water droplets fell back into the stream, 2 fishes as thick as Gu Mingming's thighs landed in front of Gu Mingming. "Handsome." Gu Mingming instinctively praised him. She looked at the 2 fishes and her mind spun rapidly: pickled cabbage fish, boiled fish, squirrel fish, braised fish and fish meat hot pot. What the f***ck? Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva and cursed that beast deity in her heart. What kind of lousy place was this? There wasn't even a seasoning. Sob sob sob, every time it was time to eat, Gu Mingming would miss the borders of the modern world. Now that he thought about it, instant noodles were simply the best in the world. While Gu Mingming was lamenting the lack of spices, Leah and Elvis had already stepped into the stream. However, neither of them transformed and maintained their human forms. Elvis could not bear to remove the beast skin dress that Gu Mingming had helped him wear, while Leah did not want Gu Mingming to see him drenched. After all, a drenched fox was not a peerless beauty. Admittedly, Bode was Sandy's partner and would definitely not pose any substantial threat to Ren Bao and Leah. But, if he was defeated by another male in front of his own female, how could he still have the face to live? Furthermore, why should others prepare the food that their female wanted to eat? Once these 2 brothers reached a tacit understanding, what could they not accomplish? Hence, not long after, the fish in front of Gu Mingming had piled up into a small hill. Gu Mingming snapped back to reality and hurriedly waved her hands. "Sigh, enough enough. If you can't finish them, don't catch them." Chapter 98. Most importantly, Elvis was standing beside the alluring Leah. Even if Leah had clearly explained to Gu Mingming that he and Elvis were not in that kind of relationship, the image was still too strong. Gu Mingming felt a warm sensation spreading in her nostrils, as if she was going to have a nosebleed again. "Leader, Daddy Leah, come up, hurry up." Gu Mingming panicked. She did not want to experience the entire tribe looking at her as if she was attending a funeral. Elvis frowned and rushed to Gu Mingming's side. As his body was wet, he did not dare to carry her. He just held her shoulders and asked with a serious face, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Gu Mingming waved her hands and laughed awkwardly. Could she say that she was about to have a nosebleed from the cuteness of Elvis and Lee's rotten image? Really? Elvis did not seem to believe her. Leah followed Elvis onto the shore. He stood behind Elvis and watched for a while. Finally, he stretched out his slender and bony hand to touch Gu Mingming's forehead. After confirming that her body temperature was normal, he pressed his palm on Gu Mingming's chest. His heart, which had just relaxed because she did not have a fever, suddenly became anxious again. This heartbeat, why was it so fast? And it seemed to be getting faster. Leah frowned and was about to say something when a crisp slap landed on Lee's face, followed by Gu Mingming's earth-shattering and deafening high-pitched scream. Leah frowned. Leah frowned. Leah was bewildered by the slap and Elvis was even more dumbfounded by Gu Mingming's scream. Even Sandy, who had been watching from the side, was dumbfounded and did not know what had happened. The one who reacted the fastest was Bode. He jumped out of the water and stood in front of Sandy. He looked around warily, thinking that there was an enemy invasion. Gu Mingming shouted until the last bit of air in her chest was sucked dry. She then stopped with a red face. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and hugged her shoulders. She glared fiercely at Leah as if she was about to cry. She was like a young wife who was being teased by someone glaring at a hooligan. Leah pointed at his own nose in confusion and asked, "Did I do something wrong?" "What the hell?" Gu Mingming looked at everyone else who had a blank look on their faces. She really wanted to cry but had no tears. If this was the modern world, Lee's actions would definitely be considered sexual harassment. But in this era, what kind of era was this? She had hugged Colin, and Sandy had wanted her to take Colin as her partner. She had been attacked in the chest and no one had spoken up for her. Clenching her teeth, Gu Mingming answered fiercely, "No." How the hell was he supposed to explain that a girl's body couldn't be touched casually? Telling orcs like them who didn't even know what their daddy was useless. Gu Mingming felt extremely aggrieved but she could not say it out loud. She could only press her face into a steamed bun, pouting as she walked towards the pile of fish. She stopped in her tracks and turned back to look at Sandy. "Sandy, come and help." "Okay, I'm coming." Sandy still felt that she could not keep up with Gu Mingming's pace. She did not know why she was suddenly happy or angry. But there was one thing she knew. Gu Mingming always had her own reasons. She would not be wrong to trust her. Sandy answered as she walked towards Gu Mingming. But before she could take 2 steps, she was stopped by Leah. Chapter 99. You have a secret in your heart? Leah stared at Gu Mingming, whose face was getting redder as he got closer to her. The curve of his lips brought a hint of warmth. If one did not look closely, it would look no different from usual, but the gentleness he exuded could not be deceived. No. Gu Mingming denied flatly. Leah did not insist, he just held Gu Mingming's little hand and pressed it against the left side of his chest, where his heart was. He gently hugged her waist and pulled her closer to him, so that Gu Mingming was pressed against his chest. "I let you touch it back, so don't be angry, alright?" Gu Mingming wanted to retract her little hand as if she had been electrocuted, but Leah did not give her any chance. He placed his palm on the back of her hand, pressing it tightly against his chest. He tilted his head slightly and said with a gentle gaze, "I have a secret in my heart. If I cut it out for you to see, you won't be angry at me anymore, alright?" Gu Mingming fluttered her thick eyelashes, looking at Leah in confusion. "Promise me." Leah smiled, extending his sharp claws in front of Gu Mingming, cutting into the flesh inch by inch along the edge of Gu Mingming's little hand. "What are you doing?" That bright poppy-like blood rolled down Lee's fingertips. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment, then struggled to break free from Lee's little hand, holding onto Lee's wrist that had turned into a sharp claw, preventing him from hurting her anymore. She could only feel anger in her heart, glaring at him and saying, "Self-harm is the most stupid thing to do. But it's the most effective." Leah retracted his fingernails, then pulled his arm inwards. Gu Mingming, who was holding onto his wrist, flew into Lee's arms. Leah hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms, using a strength that made him want to knead her into his body to imprison her, as if that was the only way to prove that she really existed. "Your heart aches, right?" Leah asked, the faint smile in his eyes carrying a tinge of joy and a tinge of palpitation. The injury just now was just a small cut on the flesh. A wound of this degree would heal automatically before night falls, but such a small wound could cause such a huge reaction from her, although self-harm was stupid, but it was worth it. "Yes, my heart aches." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and pressed harshly on Lee's wound. Half of her fingertips sank into his flesh and the warmth of the blood from her fingertip made Gu Mingming's heart ache. "Aren't you just bullying me for feeling sorry for you? Let me tell you, those who make me sad will not have a good ending." Leah arched his back and tiny beads of sweat covered his forehead. His eyes, however, were staring at Gu Mingming lovingly without blinking, not moving away from her face for even a moment. Seeing that Leah was in so much pain, Gu Mingming hurriedly retracted her little hand that was pretending to be fierce, but her wrist was held tightly by Leah, unwilling to let her escape just like that. "You haven't seen that secret yet." Leah held Gu Mingming's hand and placed it into his wound, as if the person bleeding was not him. He smiled seductively and said, "Cut open my heart, I'll let you see who it belongs to." Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. No, I don't want that." Gu Mingming pulled back her hand with all her might. How could she be Lee's match in terms of strength? Seeing that her fingertips were about to touch Lee's wound again, Gu Mingming's big eyes were filled with pleading as she said in a sobbing tone, "I beg you, don't do this." Aside from the topic, it's time to promote the correct values again. Little cuties, self-harm is really an extremely stupid act, you must never learn it. Chapter 100. Can't bear to? Leah did not care about his wound at all, as if it was not worth mentioning. With a faint smile on his face, He inched his flawlessly handsome face closer to Gu Mingming and asked in a faint voice, "Then forgive me, don't be angry, alright?" Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing that Leah was no longer pulling her, Gu Mingming pouted her lips and said pitifully, "You have to promise me that you won't harm yourself in the future." "As you wish." Leah loosened his grip on Gu Mingming's wrist and turned to hug her slender waist. With a light lift, he hugged her into his arms and rubbed her little face intimately before continuing to ask, "Tell me, what did I do wrong just now? I don't want to see you angry anymore, this place hurts." Gu Mingming looked at the bleeding wound that Leah was pointing at and groaned sullenly. The sullen feeling of being molested had long been scattered into dust by Lee's stirring. Now that she heard his heartache, Gu Mingming actually felt a sense of sweetness and warmth in her heart. *CK, could this be the legendary Stockholm Syndrome? You're still distracted after being hugged by me? What were you thinking about? Leah squinted his long and narrow eyes. Ambiguity and jealousy merged perfectly on his fairy-like face, colliding into an extreme temptation. No, I'm not thinking about anyone." Gu Mingming did not know why. Even though Elvis's original body was much fiercer than Lee's, she seemed to be more afraid of Leah. Leah looked at Gu Mingming doubtfully and raised his eyebrows, signaling Gu Mingming to answer his question just now. Gu Mingming looked elsewhere guiltily. Her little face was burning and even her throat was so tight that she could only squeeze out a very soft voice from her throat and say, "You can't touch a girl's body so casually." Leah smiled wickedly and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his index finger. He brought her face closer to his and stared at her as if he was looking at a piece of delicious food. He licked his lips suggestively and asked in a slightly arrogant tone, "Then what should I do when I want to hug you?" Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with disdain. "Hugging doesn't count," Gu Mingming replied, blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mingming with a mischievous smile, as if he had discovered something. Gu Mingming was stunned by his smile and her face turned even redder. She said angrily, "I'm not asking for a hug." Lee's smile became wider. He liked Gu Mingming's shy and bashful look, it was so cute. "Oh, what do you mean? I'm really not asking for a hug." Gu Mingming really could not explain herself. She pushed Leah and wanted to leave his arms, but this sly fox actually pressed the wound on his chest against her. As long as she used a little more strength, he would definitely bleed. Gu Mingming gritted her teeth and thought to herself, "Are you sure you can't bear to hurt me? You're ruthless, you've guessed correctly." "I really can't bring myself to do it." Leah did not answer Gu Mingming's question, he just used his index finger to hold her chin and asked, "Other than your heart, is there any other place that will make you angry if I touch it? Tell me, okay?" Once Leah asked this question, Elvis, who was standing at the side, could not help but perk up his ears. Gu Mingming said angrily, "You can't touch any place that is covered by clothes." Leah pondered for a moment, then said with a serious face, "Next time I'll help you take off your clothes first." Gu Mingming was so angry that she screamed in her heart, "Hey! Hurry and tell me you're not serious." Chapter 101. While Gu Mingming was cursing in her heart, there was already a commotion on the other side. A group of males galloped over on horseback. Gu Mingming felt her scalp go numb as she looked at the weird prey the males were carrying in their hands. What the heck, they were all protected animals like tigers, lions and bears. There were also some that she could not even name, no, she had never even seen them before, but they were obviously precious animals. But these males just threw these animals away like they were cabbages, piling them together with the fishes that Leah, Elvis and Bode had caught. Gu Mingming was speechless as she asked the heavens, "Isn't the beast deity going to do something about this?" Leah followed Gu Mingming's gaze and the corners of his lips curved upwards, forming a beautiful arc. These males were really willing to put in a lot of effort. It was almost winter and these plump preys that had long been hidden were probably preys that they had been observing for a long time but did not make a move on, waiting for the winter to end before hunting them. To please Gu Mingming, they even took out their food reserves to protect themselves during winter. They were really blinded by lust. Like it? Leah saw that Gu Mingming was staring straight at them and said helplessly, "Elvis and I also have some food reserves. If you like it, I can hunt it for you." "Still hunt?" Gu Mingming looked at Leah in shock. Meeting his mesmerizing eyes, she could not help but soften her tone. She smiled apologetically and said, "Let's settle these first, it will be a waste if we can't finish them." Although she said that, Gu Mingming had already decided to only eat fish. Damn tigers and whatnot, she could not bring herself to eat them. "Alright, I'll listen to you." Leah carried Gu Mingming and had no intention of letting her down. Just like that night when he saved her from Quentin's hands and brought her back to the tribe. She placed her hands behind her back and shook her head as she looked at the group of well-built, good-looking males. She felt as if she was filming Descendants of the Sun too. Yeah, she was acting as the demon female instructor. Although Song Joong-ki was not around, there was Elvis and Leah. Moreover, there was a group of males who could be teased by her. Kaka, how could a single word describe the feeling of love? Gu Mingming, the tiger I hunted is the tiger king in this area. It's one of the best among the wild beasts. It has a strong body and usually eats the healthiest animals. There was a male whose name Gu Mingming could not remember at all because of Elvis and Lee's comparison. Gu Mingming gave him a thumbs up. A hero who fights tigers. Not bad, not bad. You have the power of Wu Song. The male who hunted the tiger muttered in his heart, Wu Song? A new adjective? Is it the same as the word tough guy, used to describe Barrett? It should be about the same, but who cared what he meant? It was Gu Mingming who praised him just now. Chapter 102. Gu Mingming looked at the one who hunted the tiger just now, whose face was red from holding back and looked like he was about to attack. She quickly came out to calm things down and said, "Brave one, you even dare to hunt a snow fox, aren't you afraid of Leah beating you up?" The one who hunted the snow fox looked at Gu Mingming blankly, then looked at Leah and asked seriously, "Why did Leah beat me up?" Leah did not answer the fox hunter. Instead, he held onto Gu Mingming's waist and knocked on her little head lightly. Seeing how she was holding her head in pain with a face full of grievance, he could not help but laugh but did not want to let her off so easily. So, he used the most gentle smile and a slightly cold tone to ask, "Are you comparing me with a wild fox?" Gu Mingming shrunk her neck and waved her hands saying, "No no, Daddy Leah, you are strong and mighty ruling over the world. How can a mere wild fox be compared to you?" Leah obviously enjoyed Gu Mingming's flattery, even though he knew that she was not being sincere, so what if she was making it up? He loved to hear whatever she said. "Really, really?" Gu Mingming nodded her head seriously and emphasized her tone. "Be good." Lee's lips landed on Gu Mingming's little earlobe and he bit it not too hard or too light. Then he let go of her in satisfaction, allowing her to continue inspecting everyone's prey like a supervisor. Gu Mingming blushed. No matter how many times she did it, she could not get used to Daddy Lee's ambiguous actions. Everyone was watching. Cough cough. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and said, "Everyone's prey is very good, I won't look at them one by one due to time constraints. In order to let everyone eat more delicious food, I need a small team to accompany me to carry out a very important mission. Who is willing to go with me?" Gu Mingming was almost stunned by the undulating sound of the same voice. Don't, there's no need for so many people. Around 3 to 5 people would be enough. Everyone has to work together, otherwise it would be too inefficient. Gu Mingming thought to herself, the crowd is too passionate, it also makes people feel pressured. Elvis went forward and carried Gu Mingming in his arms, glancing at the boiling male beast with a cold face. The pressure he unintentionally emitted successfully controlled the scene. "Leah and I will accompany you. That's enough." Elvis's calm voice was filled with absolute confidence. Coincidentally, Gu Mingming did not want Elvis and Leah to follow her because if they did, she could forget about doing anything. So Gu Mingming said with a fawning expression, "That won't do, you and Daddy Leah are the only 2 people in the tribe who know how to start a fire other than me. We need quite a lot of firewood to feed so many people. If I bring the 2 of you away, who would know how to start a fire? Who would dare to light a fire?" No, you 2 have to stay here and light the fire." Hearing Gu Mingming's words, Elvis and Leah felt an indescribable sense of pride. She said they were irreplaceable. Gu Mingming thought to herself, flattery will never work. The ancients did not deceive me. Thus, Gu Mingming struck while the iron was hot and whispered into Elvis's ear, "Moreover, look at how they go berserk at the slightest provocation. If not for you and Daddy Leah here to control the situation, I reckon they would have destroyed the entire tribe by the time I return." Elvis actually did not hear clearly what Gu Mingming said. Because when her warm breath landed on his ear, a numb feeling spread from his ear to his entire body. His heart was so manic that it was deafening. That thumping heartbeat almost broke his eardrums. Aside from the topic. Chapter 103. "Leader, just let me go, alright?" Gu Mingming tugged at Elvis's arm and swung it left and right, acting coquettishly without any integrity. "Oh." Elvis nodded his head blankly and responded, "Yeah. Leader, you're the best." As Gu Mingming said, she kissed Elvis's face and was about to run. But before she could take 3 steps, Leah grabbed her arm and pulled her into Lee's arms. What about me? Leah leaned his beautiful face forward and Gu Mingming's face heated up. Her heart raced and she felt uneasy. Glancing left and right, she lied to herself and found an empty spot where no one was looking to give Leah a peck on his face. Then she turned around and ran away as if she was running for her life. She shouted while running, "Cole, Bode and the one who hunted the snow fox just now, the 3 of you follow me." Cole naturally did not say anything. It was as if he was waiting for Gu Mingming's call at any time. When he heard Gu Mingming calling his name, he dashed behind Gu Mingming without hesitation and was the closest to her. Bode was a little unwilling, but seeing Sandy giving him a strong push, obviously telling him to listen to Gu Mingming's arrangements, he could only bear with the awkwardness and follow. The slowest one to react was actually Oakley, who hunted the snow fox. Happiness came too suddenly and he was a little unprepared. "Oakley, hurry up." Colin automatically assumed the role of the deputy leader of the Special Operations Team. After all, he was the closest to Gu Mingming here as he had helped her wash the rabbits before. "Oh, I'm coming." Oakley did not dare to delay any longer as he was afraid that others would snatch his chance to get close to the little female. So he hurriedly chased after her. Luckily, Gu Mingming's speed? Yeah, it was too easy to catch up. So, Oakley was seriously considering if he should pretend that he could not catch up to her? But would Gu Mingming think that he was too useless? Just as he was hesitating, Bode said impatiently, "Let Colin carry you, it's faster that way." Gu Mingming pouted and said, "I have my own legs." Bode glanced sideways at Gu Mingming's 2 slender legs and sneered, "Ha, I can tell." Just as Gu Mingming was about to flare up, she saw Bode running over 10 meters away in a flash. He raised his head from afar and said, "Hey little female with long legs, why don't you start running?" Gu Mingming stomped her feet and said, "So what if you run fast? I'll go back and tell Sandy that you bullied me." "You." Bode's face darkened and he lost his temper. The most important reason why he deliberately provoked Sandy was because ever since Sandy got to know this little female, he had focused all his attention on her. If not for the fact that Gu Mingming was really in heat, he would have treated Gu Mingming as a weaker male love rival. It was indeed embarrassing to compete with a female, but what could he do? He was also in despair. His little female could not see anyone else other than Gu Mingming. All the males in the family were in danger of losing their favor. What about me? Gu Mingming would not lose to Bode in terms of aura. If she could not win the first round, Bode would not take her seriously. In that case, if Bode bullied Sandy in the future, how could she stand up for Sandy? Although the possibility was not high, she would rather kill the wrong person than let him off. Aside from the topic, yeah, I'll reply to the messages left by the little babies in QQ Book City. I saw some babies saying that Leah has too many scenes. Since the male lead is destined to be Elvis, should Lee's scenes be cut down appropriately? Regarding this question, my answer is, Elvis is definitely the male lead. Sir Wolfman is talking about Elvis. But Leah is also a very important character. At the current stage, he is someone that Gu Mingming likes more than Elvis. Although Wenwen is in the third person, the main point of view is based on Gu Mingming. She now cares about Leah, so Lee's scenes are destined to be the most important. Chapter 104. Gu Mingming snorted at Bode with her nostrils, then continued speaking with her head held high. "If not for Sandy, do you think I would be willing to bring you out?" Gu Mingming would never admit that she had brought Bode out mainly because she could remember the names in the tribe. Moreover, other than Elvis, Leah, Colin and Bode were the only ones present. Although Bode was aggrieved, he had no other choice. If Gu Mingming was a male, he could still fight until one side was convinced. But Gu Mingming was a female and he was not Quentin, he could not do anything to a female. Moreover, if Gu Mingming was hurt by him, not to mention how Elvis and Leah would deal with him, even Sandy would not let him off. Thinking of how Sandy worshipped Gu Mingming, Bode shook his head gloomily and took a step back. He shifted his face to the side and said in an impatient tone, "Why did you bring the 3 of us out? Hurry up and tell me, I still need to accompany Sandy after I am done with you." Gu Mingming's lips curved upwards and she gave a cheeky smile. "Sandy has me, does she still need you to accompany her?" Very good, this stab hit the bullseye. Bode could not retort after being ridiculed and could only take a deep breath, feeling even more aggrieved. Gu Mingming saw Bode admitting defeat and felt a little smug. "Bickering with me? Haha, I can talk you to death." Turning around, Gu Mingming looked at Colin and the man standing at the side. She touched her chin and asked, "I heard Colin call you Oakley just now?" "Yes, I am Oakley from the Lynx tribe." Oakley's lips curled into a faint smile. If one looked closely, he looked like Leah. But he did not look like a deity, nor did he look like a demon. Compared to Leah, he could only be considered as average handsomeness. Gu Mingming nodded and repeated while thinking, Lynx tribe, no wonder you could hunt such a precious female snow fox. Oakley's eyes curved into crescents as his heart surged. Do you know? Gu Mingming praised me. Gu Mingming did not care much about Oakley's thoughts. She tilted her head and asked Colin, Eh? I still don't know what race you are from. Colin gave a silly smile and replied, Like Sandy, I'm a bear. Oh, no wonder you know about bees. Gu Mingming thought for a while, then looked at Bode, who was drawing circles at the side and cursing someone. Hey, Sandy said you know about bees. Oh no. Where is the nest of the yellow needle insects, right? You called the three of us out to get the yellow sauce? Bode looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He quickly shook his head and said, No, Sandy has specially instructed me not to bring you to the nest of the yellow needle insects. If you need yellow sauce, you can ask Elvis or Leah to help you find it. They are the strongest warriors in St. Nazaire. They can definitely help you get a lot. Tiske. I'm just asking you if you know. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? Gu Mingming widened her eyes and stepped on a huge rock with one leg, looking like a female bandit blocking the road to rob. Of course, if her small physique could be more burly or Bode could be more skinny, maybe the scene would not look so funny. Bode really wanted to deny it and say he did not know. But if he said that, it would be equivalent to saying that Sandy was lying. Sandy cared so much about Gu Mingming. If Gu Mingming distanced herself from her because she thought that Sandy was a female who liked to lie, Sandy would definitely be very upset. Clenching his teeth, Bode still nodded his head and said, I know. Aside from the topic, thank you to book friend 15*88 from QQ Reading for providing the names. But in this beast world, other than the female lead, the names are all European. The names you provided are too deep in China, so it's not suitable for this novel. But thank you for your valuable suggestions. Also, thank you to book friend 1727496011 for your message. I will take care of my health. Thank you for your concern. Chapter 105. Gu Mingming fluttered her long and thick eyelashes and stared at Bode for a while, realizing that he had no intention to continue speaking. She frowned and slapped Colin's stomach. Her soft little hand made a crisp sound as it collided with Colin's strong abdominal muscles. Gu Mingming originally wanted to intimidate Colin to tell her the location of the beehive in an imposing manner, but in the end she underestimated the sturdiness of Colin's abdominal muscles. From her fingers to her forearm, she used all her strength to slap Colin. Ouch. Gu Mingming wailed, feeling that her hand was crippled. Gu Mingming, how's your hand? Does it hurt a lot? I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Colin's heart ached terribly as he held Gu Mingming's little hand carefully, but did not know what to do. Why don't we let Oakley send you back to St. Nazaire first and let Leah check if your hand is fine? Leave the yellow sauce to me and Bode will definitely bring it back for you, okay? When Gu Mingming heard that he wanted her to turn back, how could she agree? So he shook his numb hand and said, No need. I'm fine. But Colin was still worried. He wished his eyes could turn into X-rays and see every cell on Gu Mingming's hand clearly through the skin. No buts, listen to me. Gu Mingming placed her hands on her hips. So what if she lost her imposing manner? Even if he dropped the ball, he still had to change his style. Gu. Colin still wanted to say something, but Gu Mingming placed a finger on his lips. That pretty little face was right in front of him. Colin swallowed his saliva instinctively, but did not say another word. After settling Colin, Gu Mingming then turned around to continue threatening Bode. If you're smart, just tell me where the nest of the yellow needle insects is. Otherwise he. Bode looked disdainfully at Gu Mingming, who was as weak as a cub. The forced cunning smile on her sweet face did not seem threatening at all, but instead made people feel that she was mischievous and cute. Although she could not be compared to their Sandy, she was barely worthy of the title of the first beauty of St. Nazaire. But this little fellow wanted to scare him? He's still a little too tender. What else can I do? Is he going to complain to Sandy again? You can go. Sandy won't blame me for this. Sandy would be mad at me if I took you to the nest of the yellow needles. Bode crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the tree trunk at the side, clearly not taking Gu Mingming's warning seriously. Gu Mingming saw that using force was not going to work, so she changed her strategy. She shook her head helplessly and sighed, All right, since you are so insistent, I will not make things difficult for you. It's just that Sandy was looking forward to my yellow gravy barbecue. Everything was prepared except for the yellow gravy barbecue. Sigh, that little foodie, how disappointed would she be if she couldn't eat the yellow gravy barbecue? Thinking about the tears in her innocent eyes, it was really heartbreaking to the listener to hear it and cry. But don't worry, Bode, even if you can't fulfill Sandy's little wish, I won't ridicule you in front of her. The males in the tribe won't laugh at you either. Sandy won't think that you don't love her and refuse to do such a small thing for her. You? Bode finally understood that this was a blatant threat. So this was what he meant. It's alright, don't worry. Gu Mingming interrupted Bode's words and continued on her own. No matter how disappointed and sad Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. At most, there will be other males who will take the opportunity to win her heart and become her most important partner. Isn't it just a drop in status in the family and being laughed at by others for being the most useless first partner who can't stand up straight? These are all small matters, right? Gu Mingming interrupted Bode's words and said to herself, no matter how disappointed Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. Aside from the topic, replying to book friend 30***67, I was really touched after reading your comments, thank you for liking it. Also, why did you only reply to the comments on QQ Bookstore and not on Xiaoxiang's website? Because I had directly replied to all the comments on Xiaoxiang's website. Backstage Bookstore did not have a backstage, so I could only reply like this. Chapter 106. You. Bode was so angry that he wanted to bite someone. But Gu Mingming was a female. What? Why was this annoying Gu Mingming not a male? And you guys? Gu Mingming turned around to look at Colin and Oakley. No one is allowed to tell anyone that Bode is unwilling to help Sandy find the yellow sauce. Sandy had always been bullied by Nina in the past, causing her to have such a submissive personality that she would cry over even the smallest matter. If this matter was made known to the entire tribe, who knew what kind of criticism Sandy would receive? By then, that damned Nina would definitely say that Sandy is a half-orc, something along the lines of, it must be because Sandy is a half-orc, that's why Bode is unwilling to help her with such a small matter. That Nina would definitely say that. I don't want Sandy to listen to such harsh and sarcastic remarks, so all of you better keep your mouths shut, no one is allowed to leak a single word. Colin and Oakley looked at each other and thought to themselves, although it sounds like he's defending Sandy, why do I feel that something's not quite right about it? I'll bring you there. Bode could not hold it in any longer. It did not matter how much he was mocked and mocked, even if Sandy found a new partner in the future, he would already be mentally prepared. But if Sandy was to be bullied by Nina because of this matter, he would definitely not tolerate it. Really? Gu Mingming turned her head to look at Bode suspiciously, her face full of doubt. Really? Bode could not explain why, but he always felt that he was always on the losing end whenever he met Gu Mingming. Although they would fight with Nina's partners from time to time when Nina bullied Sandy, and were often beaten up badly by Quentin, but he could at least fight for Sandy then. Damn, why was it that whenever he met Gu Mingming she would just blabber on and he would be unable to defend himself? Grievance, so damn grievance. Bode firmly believed that he must ask Sandy to stay away from Gu Mingming when they return. Or else she would be led astray by Gu Mingming sooner or later. But this was all in the future. The most important thing now was to bring Gu Mingming to find the yellow sauce, but also to ensure that she would not be killed by the yellow needle insects. Or else he would not be able to answer to Sandy. Thinking about this, Bode cleared his throat and said, I can bring you there, but you have to stand far away with Oakley. Once something goes wrong, let Oakley bring you and run first. Gu Mingming looked at Oakley, suddenly feeling that her mounts after she came to the beast world. In the past, who would have thought that she could ride a black wolf and a snow fox? Or maybe she could even ride a lynx. Mingming Gu Mingming Gu. Gu Mingming answered without hesitation, causing Bode to suspect that she had no intention of abiding by the agreement. Gu Dinghao then Dali boomed. When the four of them finally reached the beehive, Gu Mingming pushed Bode away and walked forward while shaking her head. She walked to the bottom of the beehive and raised her head to take a look. Not bad, pure wild honey. The beehive was big and sturdy, and she could faintly see the golden honey inside. The worker bees in and out busy. Dong. Gu Gu was Gu Dong. Chapter 107. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders at Bode indifferently and said softly, as long as you don't panic, the yellow needle insects won't attack suddenly. Calm down a little. The veins on Bode's forehead bulged and he shouted for the 100th time in his heart, "Why isn't Gu Mingming a male?" Gu Mingming was not willing to waste any more time, so she returned before Bode exploded. Dusting off the dust on her hands, Gu Mingming started to assign tasks. "Colin, you have more strength, help me find some dried leaves and damp branches." "All right." Colin naturally had no objections to Gu Mingming's arrangement. He nodded and went to the side to collect the things that Gu Mingming wanted. "Oakley, when Colin is done preparing the things, can you help me start the fire?" Gu Mingming was not that familiar with Oakley, so she was naturally more polite to him. But Gu Mingming's politeness made Oakley feel a lot disappointed. It must be because he did not work hard enough on the night when Gu Mingming became an adult and did not perform as well as Colin. That was why Gu Mingming was so distant towards him. Oakley decided to perform better in the following days, so he nodded his head firmly and promised that he could complete the mission. Gu Mingming turned around to look at Bode and drew circles in front of Bode with her fair and slender fingers. She dragged her voice and said, "You, Bode was still impatient as he totally did not understand what this female wanted. She said she wanted to find the yellow sauce for a while and then made a fuss when he did not bring her along. Now that she was here, she said she wanted to start the fire. "Forget it, your mission is already completed and there's nothing else for you to do." Gu Mingming's face was filled with disdain and she simply turned her head away and ignored Bode. Colin was extremely fast. Anyway, he was gathering the materials from the ground, so it was not difficult to find the dried leaves and damp branches. So while Gu Mingming and Bode were not happy with each other, he had already carried a huge bunch of dried leaves and 10 over damp branches back. "Gu Mingming, do you think these are enough?" As Colin spoke, he took out 2 tree branches that were stored separately from his armpits. "There are 2 dry ones here. I saw Elvis and Leah using dry tree branches when they lit the fire, so I brought 2 along. Do you want to use them?" Yes. Gu Mingming nodded her head like she was pounding garlic. "Colin, I didn't see it coming. You look simple and honest, but you're actually a careful person." Colin scratched his head in embarrassment. He sat cross-legged on the ground and prepared to drill the wood to start a fire. However, he had only drilled it twice when he pinched the dry branch into 2 pieces. Gu Mingming chuckled and took the branch from Colin's hand. "Leave this to Oakley. You have other important things to do later." Colin was also embarrassed. He had never thought that drilling wood to make a fire was a delicate job. But seeing that Gu Mingming was not disappointed in him because of this, Colin felt much more at ease. He simply handed the branch to Oakley and watched from the side with Gu Mingming. Although Oakley was not as smart as Leah, he quickly grasped the knack. A thin wisp of smoke rose up and Gu Mingming hurriedly piled the dried leaves inside. Then she pointed at the leaves that looked like an elephant's ear. "Colin, pull 2 leaves and fan them." Colin reached out his hand and pulled 2 leaves off. Then he started fanning them one by one. Gu Mingming's face darkened. She turned her head and asked, "Why are you fanning me? Who asked you to fan the fire?" Aside from the topic, yesterday I plucked up my courage to look for the editor and said that everyone thinks that NPC is good. Can I write NPC? The great editor told me seriously, "We are cracking down." Chapter 108. With everyone's help, Gu Mingming's plan to start the fire was successfully carried out. Gu Mingming saw that the fire was still burning brightly and wanted to praise Colin and Oakley, but she saw that the 2 fellows were already clenching their molars so tightly that their facial nerves looked a little hideous. Being afraid of fire was an animal's nature, Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders to express her helplessness. She could not count on the help of these 2 fellows who were afraid of fire, so Gu Mingming could only add the damp branches to the fire pile herself. Not long after, thick smoke rose in spirals, as if thick ink had dripped into a clear water tank, brewing enchanting and beautiful ink marks. The place where Gu Mingming started the fire was naturally the air vent, so the wind blew from her back, blowing the thick smoke towards the beehive. At first, a few worker bees came out to check on the situation, then swarms of bees rushed out of the beehive like a torrent of water, flying in the opposite direction of the smoke as if they were escaping for their lives, completely not noticing the culprit Gu Mingming standing not far away. When most of the bees had flown out, and the remaining few had fainted from the thick smoke, Gu Mingming then used the damp grass and leaves to extinguish the fire pile. The smoke looked scary, but the fire was actually not that big. After dealing with the aftermath, Gu Mingming patted her hands that were black from the soot, raised her chin and looked at the 3 males who were dumbfounded. She happily accepted the worship and shock in their eyes with a complacent expression. "All right, do you know what to do next?" Gu Mingming's big lively eyes were embedded on her dirty little face. She gave Colin and the other two a do-it look, but the three of them still maintained their dazed gazes and looked at her, as if they did not understand what had happened from the start. Gu Mingming face-bombed, sigh, brains are a good thing but they actually did not have it. If she was not afraid of Leah and Elvis stopping her, she really should have brought the two of them along. Helplessly, she could only use these three people now, and that Bode was still someone she could not rely on. Gu Mingming sighed and could only pull herself together. She patted Colin's shoulder and said, "Colin, hug me." Colin blinked his big eyes before nodding his head with a smile. He stretched out his arms and lowered his head shyly, not daring to look at Gu Mingming in the eye. He was like a little girl who was reluctant but welcoming at the same time. Gu Mingming frowned and said with a look of disdain, "You're almost 2 meters tall, why are you acting shy? It doesn't match your character at all." Colin did not know how to reply to Gu Mingming's sarcasm. He just lowered his head feeling wrong, thinking to himself, "I'm really too stupid, I made Gu Mingming angry again. Don't blush." Gu Mingming was going crazy. She really could not stand a muscular man who was almost as strong as Schwarzenegger behaving like a little wife in front of her. Who was the one who risked his life to rush the tower last night and was covered in blood? Beast deity, hurry up and take this effeminate fake goods away. Oh. Colin nodded vigorously, but he didn't know how to keep his face from turning red, and the more anxious he was, the redder his face seemed to become. What to do? How hopeless. Gu Mingming face-bombed and gave up on Colin's character. She turned to Oakley and said, "Oakley, hug me for a while." "All right." Oakley nodded and walked to Gu Mingming to hug her lightly. Then, he let go of her obediently and stood back at his original spot. Gu Mingming could clearly see a flock of crows flying past her head in a flock. She just wanted someone to carry her to harvest the beehive. Why did it seem like she was asking for hugs everywhere? Can't we just have fun? Aside from the topic, thank you to the QQ reading baby bubble milk tea for tipping 100 reading B. She also replied to the little baby emoji's question. Regarding how Leah would react, I've already answered it in the reader group. It's not convenient to say more in the comments. Believe me, I have my own difficulties. Chapter 109. Gu Mingming's face darkened. Forget it, I won't count on you guys, I'll climb up the tree myself. Gu Mingming shook her head and gave up the idea of communicating with these males helplessly. She walked towards the hive by herself. How would Colin and Oakley dare to let her walk over alone? So they kept their lingering thoughts and hurriedly followed her. Colin stood in front of Gu Mingming, ready to use himself as a meat shield to protect her. Oakley followed closely behind Gu Mingming, ready to bring Gu Mingming away if the yellow needle insects attacked. Although Bode found Gu Mingming extremely annoying, she was a precious female after all. Moreover, she was someone that Sandy valued so much. So if there was any danger, he must protect Gu Mingming even if he had to sacrifice himself. This was the responsibility of a male. Gu Mingming sighed deeply. The damn bees had already flown away long ago, but these guys were still advancing like the Japanese entering a village with a minesweeper posture. By the time they reached the place, the damn bees would have flown back. Move away if you guys are afraid, don't delay me from collecting the yellow sauce, alright? Gu Mingming pushed Colin, who was blocking in front of her. Colin had some understanding of the yellow needle insects, he knew how powerful they were. Seeing Gu Mingming's fearless look, he became more worried, so he licked his lips and said, "Why don't you just stand here and wait, I'll go over and help you get it, alright?" Gu Mingming did not insist and nodded. "Alright, just break off half of that hive for me, just half is enough, don't take the whole thing." "What, half?" Colin's eyes widened. In the past, when they risked their lives to snatch it, the best result was a palm-sized piece. That time, there were 2 males who could never return to St. Nazaire. 2/3 at most, no more. If you take it all, they won't come back to build their nest next year. That won't do, understand? Gu Mingming did not know about Colin's worries, she thought that half was too little. Colin clenched his teeth, thinking that even if he was killed by the yellow needle insects, he would never disappoint Gu Mingming. So he nodded with the determination to die. "Alright, I'll definitely get it back for you. Wait for me here." Gu Mingming did not understand where Colin's tragic and stirring emotions came from. She only saw him instructing Oakley and Bode to bring Gu Mingming away immediately if anything happened. Then he turned into a bear resolutely and sprinted towards the beehive. Have you ever seen a kuroshio that is as tall as a building running on all fours? Why did it feel like the wind was howling and the water was cold, as if it would never return? Gu Mingming wanted to stand behind Colin and sing, "One Cut Plum." Colin didn't waste any time. He went up and directly dug out more than half of the beehive with his palm. Then he turned around and ran. As he ran he shouted, "Success! Retreat!" Then either Oakley or Bode grabbed Gu Mingming's collar and dragged her along as they ran. Gu Mingming looked at the scenery flying past her rapidly and her heart crumbled. The King bees didn't even chase after us, so why are you guys running? Unfortunately, the three males didn't even give her a chance to speak. They sprinted all the way back to St. Nazaire. When Gu Mingming could finally land on both her feet, she felt as if she had sat on a roller coaster 8 times. Her head was spinning and she just wanted to vomit. However, just as Gu Mingming was about to find a tree root to support herself and vomit, a deafening cheer rang out behind her. Before she could react to what had happened, she was lifted by all 4 limbs and thrown high up into the sky by a group of males. F***CK Roller Coaster 2. Upgraded version 0, Digression. Announcement. This article's 2P will be held from the 25th to the 28th. Same rules. In these 3 days, don't pay attention to the articles, don't pay attention to the articles. You must follow the articles daily and then actively leave comments. Those who have flowers will donate flowers and those who have votes will vote. During the PK period there will be 3 chapters every day. The diligent Jeaner is working hard to write the draft. Then it will be the same as during 1P. There will be a small question placed under the article every day. The first one to answer correctly will be rewarded with 66xxb. The second one will be rewarded with 56xxb. The third one will be rewarded with 36xxb. The rest of the people who answer correctly will be rewarded with 18xxb. The first one to leave a comment every day will be rewarded with 10xxb. Those who discuss the plot will be rewarded according to the quality of their comments. Our Gu Mingming's future will depend on the results of 2P. Also, reader group number 4927792773. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.